What is the ideal housing for you? You may have seen the housing guides all around campus, perhaps suggesting to us that we take a turn through a few of the pages to find that ideal housing for us. Just the other day, I was talking with some friends about housing, and I mentioned to them how I live in the dorms in Helaman Halls. And they looked at me quizzically and asked, "Why do you live in Helaman Halls?" There's obviously a stigma set out against on-campus housing, but it is not founded. In a survey that I conducted asking college students about housing, I asked them what the major criteria they look for when deciding where to live. And the most prevalent responses were the price, location, and environment. So using this same criteria, I will show to you that on-campus housing is actually a very viable option and should not be overlooked just because of the stigma that is associated with it. So the first is price. Price is extremely important to consider when deciding where to live, but is a common misconception that on-campus housing is too expensive or unaffordable. From the survey I conducted, the majority of the students reported to pay between $200 and $400 a month for rent. On the BYU housing page for the posted prices for 2015 through 2016, each and every on-campus venue actually has a price option that falls within that same range. So on-campus housing is not as expensive as you think. And in addition, there's other price cuts that are associated with it that many people don't think about, such as free parking and included utilities that are options for many of the different venues. But it is important to take note that many people pay zero for rent. There was a large portion of the people who took my survey who don't pay anything for rent because they live at home. And while free rent is hard to beat, there are certain things associated with on-campus housing that can't be provided when you live at home. And these things I consider to be priceless. Therefore, leading us to talk about the location and environment of on-campus housing. So if you look at the on-campus map, you'll see how all the on-campus living options are about as close to campus as you can get. And this brings many different benefits, such as saving time and saving money on travel. But there's also even greater benefits, including those affecting your academics and your social life. So Hannah Marchant, she conducted for her senior thesis study, going in and evaluating the effects of housing, on-campus housing, on GPA. And she found a strong correlation between the two, showing that students who lived on campus had higher GPAs. But it goes beyond that, not just academics, but socially, leading us to talk about the environment. The environment of on-campus housing is something that a lot of people have concerns with. They think it's very limited in options and it keeps you isolated. But this is not true. Looking back to that BYU housing map, you'll see that there's options for all sorts of different kinds of situations. There are the dorms where I live, but there's also apartment styles such as Heritage, Y-View, Y-Mount. Even foreign language immersion housing is available to you, and they cater to all sorts of different situations. Single, married, family, younger than 19 communities, even older than 19 communities. But you don't have to take it just from me. I love living on campus, but I'm not the only one. Going back to Helaman Halls, there lives a girl named Emma Rose. She's 21, a junior here at BYU, and has lived in the dorms for a total of 5 semesters, loving every bit of it. I interviewed her and asked her what type of things she loved about living on campus, and she said many of the things that I've just shared with you. It's easy access to all of the things that she needs. She has an increased academic awareness, and she feels like she's more involved in campus because she lives on campus. So I encourage you, when you go and are looking for housing for next semester and next term, don't overlook on-campus housing because the ideal place for you might be closer than you think.